All right, you're tuned into MMA Canada and very excited to be talking to an individual who's going to be competing on Dana White's Contender Series this year. And in the first episode, no less, and a great way to kick it off with this George Mangos fight on August the 12th. And happy to have Radley Da Silva on the MMA Canada platform today. How are you doing, man?
Good, brother. Happy to be here. Happy to talk about the upcoming fight and excited for it.
Yeah, I know it's just so incredible to see, man. And I'm just kind of curious as to, I guess, how the whole process came about because from what I could tell, it looked like you were in Montreal at UFC 315 in May. And then it seemed like the announcement for this Contender Series fight came about shortly after that. Like, I guess, what was the timeline to this being like a locked in fight and just you being made privy to this Contender Series opportunity?
Yeah, I was down in Montreal there for the UFC stuff. Just kind of, getting the feel for the event and everything. But I actually knew about the contenders fight since I think early or mid-March. So I knew for a while already. It was just, you release stuff because you never know, right? Like visa stuff, you got to confirm. Just yeah, there's a bunch of stuff that you got to get through the paperwork first and make sure everything's all signed and good to go. And then even that, the UFC wants to promote the fight themselves, right? So you can't just go telling everyone right away. So it was just yeah, I knew a long time ago, but it was just keeping it under wraps until the UFC was ready to announce it and. Did the best I could. Some people kind of speculated. There's so many news outlets out there already that, well, before the UFC released anything, they already had all the matchups confirmed for the whole week one. I don't know how how you guys do it, man. The journalists like they have like the inside scoop. So yeah, that was cool. But yeah, other than that, I was just keeping it under wraps because the I just wanted the UFC to be able to do their marketing job that they do so good at.
No, I definitely hear you out, man. And I guess I'm curious about the, I guess, attendance at the Montreal card. Like, is it almost like, hey, the UFC's in my country, I'll check it out? Because we've talked in the past, and it seems like there's been some past like UFC Canada cards, but it would sometimes be in proximity to like when you've, just had a fight and you have I guess maybe some plans after the fight and etc. Like, was I guess going to this card, I guess maybe a byproduct of, oh, my schedule is kind of free, I can go check it out, it's in the country sort of thing, or is there some, I guess, competitive familiarization component, like just feeling what it's like at a UFC event, the atmosphere, etc.
Yeah, it was while my schedule was open, but mainly I went with the crew from Battlefield Fight League, the promotion that I was champ for. So they had me and another champion there, just to kind of get ready for the kind of like a lead up vlog to leading into the fight in Vegas. So the title kind of spoiled it now that I think about it, because the title of the vlogs were Road to Vegas, and it's like, oh, what are they gonna do in Vegas later? And that was kind of like the first few episodes was us going to Montreal to kind of like, it does kind of you kind of can put one and two together that we're gonna be fighting in Vegas soon, but yeah, it was kind of just to get the vlog going, get a feel for the event, and just represent and check out UFC Canada because those guys are supporting the athletes as much as possible right now because they're really trying to get a push for new talent. And yeah, it was awesome of them to have some of the Battlefield crew there.
Yeah, and it seems like there's such connectivity between BFL and the UFC. Like I was seeing a post saying that this will be an attempt on your part to become the 12th BFL champion to have earned a UFC contract, as well as the fourth BFL world champion on the current UFC roster. So it very much seems like there's that, I guess, like connectivity sort of component whereby if you really succeed in Battlefield Fight League, it kind of gives you that really clear path to go to the UFC and stuff like that in a certain regard. So yeah, just love to see that.
Yeah, there's no denying that Battlefield's the biggest promotion in Canada, at least on the west side, like without a doubt. And yeah, they're definitely proving it. They're having so many of their fighters in throughout history, and they've been around for so long. So it's only right that they have that kind of connection with the biggest promotion in the world because they are a feeder league, especially for Canadians. And there's not many of them. There's like now there's more starting to come, but especially before they were like one of the very few. So. Yeah, definitely. It's awesome to be part of that team.
And I mean, maybe it's different from your lived experience with it, but I guess just speaking to my vantage point, it seems like this Contender Series opportunity was always kind of an inevitability. And obviously, you have the prior familiarity being on UFC Fight Pass with Battlefield Fight League. So, is there like a certain, I guess, composure component, a familiarity aspect to this upcoming fight and everything? Or is there a certain level of, I guess, additional, I guess, importance added to it just because it's, potentially an opportunity to punch your ticket to the UFC? Like, do you kind of look at it through the lens of like, okay, I've been really working diligently towards this moment. This is a logical next step. Is there some level of, I guess, additional pressure to it? I guess, can you expound upon that a bit?
I'm sure probably for the average person, there's probably more pressure because they're thinking there's more eyes and all that stuff. But I've been like performing in front of crowds and in front of cameras since I was like, a young kid. To me, it's like I get more excited about the opportunities, the bigger they are, obviously. But as far as pressure, like I don't feel any pressure because I feel like I'm playing with house money right now. I wasn't supposed to be where I am, man. Like 2 years ago, I was literally like 2-1, like a record of 2-1, like hadn't fought in like 5 years, 4 years. So it was like just to be where I am right now, it feels like I'm just playing with house money and there's, nothing. I have nothing to lose at this stage in my career at all. Like, being my age, having like my whole life in martial arts, it's like, I've already kind of set myself up to a point where it's like, as far as in the martial art games, it feels like anything I don't do with it is that's where the real pressure is because it's like I wasted all my life training and all that, and if I do nothing or I'm not fighting or anything like that, that's where like I feel more pressure. It's like, oh man, what am I doing with my life? But to be at the level I am right now after the 2 year run, it feels like I'm just like, man, it's just there's nothing to lose. House money, as I said before.
Yeah, well, I mean, that has to be exhilarating because I've done some, past interviews with you and we kind of touched upon those aspects of just really wanting to, get that experience and be consistent, but just that difficulty with getting fights locked in. So I imagine this recent run you've been on has been, I guess, in a way, immensely satisfying, just in as far as you get to show off the skill set. But yeah, I mean, I feel like this fight too is, yeah, I guess what I was talking about before with the question, I almost presumed that this would kind of be like a business as usual sort of thing in my eyes, because I feel like with you it's always been just about like, hey, give me the opportunity and I'll show out, like regardless of what stage it's on. I'm confident in my skill set, etc.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Like, and it just comes from a lifetime of martial arts, like it's great. Like I said, each time I got in there, I felt more and more comfortable. And that's kind of how I feel right now. Like, I could be fighting the best in the world and, not have that many fights because of how many years of martial arts I did. It's hard to get people with like lower records. So, I'm actually blessed to be able to be on a 5 fight win streak and all that. And it really takes the pressure off when you've been doing it for the last little bit, and basically since I've been back, I've been champ, and everyone's all the eyes are on already been on me from the Canadian aspect of it, and even getting that viral knockout, everyone like already has known of me like in the I guess the hardcore space of MMA, and it just there's at this point there's literally no pressure. The pressure is kind of off now that I've even made it to there because I feel like, okay, at least, I have a little something to show for it. But it's definitely, yeah, it comes from just, knowing that I'm doing the right things and it's taking the pressure off. And the fact that, like I said, I'm playing with casino money at this point. It feels like, it's just, there's no pressure at all. So it's pretty awesome.
I guess that language of house money is kind of apropos considering you're in Vegas and the Snake Eyes nickname and all that.
I didn't think about that, but yeah, kind of. But it's funny that Snake Eyes nickname is actually a reference to the G.I. Joe character Snake Eyes. I don't know if you're that, but the Snake Eyes has so many meanings. So it's like I let people like however they like to think about it. I let them do it, and it's cool because I get lots of everyone loves that name because it means different things to different people.
Yeah, no, it's a great nickname. And I think the fact that there is that, I guess, multiplicity of possible interpretation definitely makes it a more fun one. And I mean, it's interesting because I feel like the way that you organically fight lends itself so well to Contender Series, perhaps more than honestly many fighters I've seen through the Contender Series circuit in a while. So I mean, that maybe plays into the confidence aspect too. Just I mean, in as far as you mentioning the viral knockout you had and just the sentiment that that created among a lot of the hardcore MMA fans, I would, yeah, I mean, just business as usual in a certain sense. And I feel like your natural style that you really, bring to the cage would lend itself quite well to a show like Contender Series, where I guess the most standout performances net a UFC contract opportunity thereafter.
Yeah, I was talking to a teammate of mine about it, and it's definitely like, they're definitely looking for a certain style of fighter to get in there. Because there's only 5 fights per night, right? And it's on a Tuesday, it's on ESPN, and all the eyes are on you. But for me, naturally, it's like I have that kind of style where I fight like I got somewhere to be in the next 30 minutes. And it's not even like that. I don't train like that. It's just when I get in there, it's the competitive aspect that kind of takes over. And it definitely lends itself to a show like Contender Series. And, a lot of times guys think they have to, fight outside of themselves to try to get a contract and try to impress people. But if you're fighting guys at the highest level, that's a dangerous thing to do. So I'm just lucky to have that style already, that where it's like, okay, I don't have to do anything outside of the ordinary to try to impress people. If the most important thing to me is always to get my hand raised, and if people happen to like my fighting style, that's just a bonus.
Absolutely. And it's such a well matched fight, too, because I saw the MMA Prospects Instagram account had a post talking about how you were their prospect of the year for last year and everything like that. And then they also, and I guess a more regional kind of sense, touted your opponent as their prospect of the year for that particular part of the world. So it seems like quite a well matched contest in, that sense. Just like to that prior point you made about how you've endeared yourself to some of the more hardcore fans, it would seem like your opponent has also, I guess, done a similar thing in a certain sense.
Yeah, for sure. When I got notice of the matchup, like I'm an MMA fan, like to the core, man. I watch all the regional shows. I know everyone, everything that's going on, all the champions. So when I heard of the matchup, I was just excited as a fan, even because I already know it's going to be a banger fight, and those are the kind of matchups that really excite me and get me going. Like I said, like when you've been doing this for so long, especially martial arts, sometimes you feel like, oh, I don't need to go that hard. I know I can beat up so such and such. But to get like these undefeated prospects, that's the kind of stuff that really gets me excited. Like I've kind of had a thing where I almost look for the guys with the best records I could possibly find, so that they give me that excitement and thrill of like, I got to be at my best when I come in there. So when I found that matchup out, I was like instantly so hyped about it, and yeah, it's definitely gonna bring the best version out of me for sure.
Yeah, and to your point of facing proven individuals with great records, just your opponent coming in with that unbeaten record and being the Hex Fight Series champion before and everything like that. I guess just, to your point about being so studious and passionate about MMA overall, like in terms of the resume and skill set of George Mangos, like what are your thoughts on just what he brings to the table overall in this fight?
I think he's like, definitely the best in his region for sure. I already knew like all the best guys from each region, like Brazil, Europe, the Australia, America. Like I know all the best guys in my weight class because I was getting ready to fight whichever one the UFC asked me to fight. So, and definitely he's the best one in that region, and he's good, man. I was saying even like I think he'll definitely make it to the UFC eventually, no matter like, it's only a matter of time, but that word time is important because right now it just isn't the time. Um, and everyone has a fight where they learn things and maybe lose that O and gain a lot more. But right now at this time of my career where it's like 25 years of martial arts in the prime of my physical and mental, um, and I have the most experience I've ever had in my career, so as many consecutive fights as I've had. It's just it's just leading into, the perfect time for me. And I feel it really is a matter of time kind of thing where it's really just my time right now to shine, and he'll have his time eventually, and it's going to be a great experience for both of us either way. But I like the skill sets he brings too. He's got sharp stand up, pretty decent jujitsu and stuff like that. So I like the matchup. I like the matchup for myself, and I know his skill sets and weaknesses. I respect what he's done so far, and I'm just ready to go in there and stamp my ticket.
And it's been mentioned earlier in the interview, just like the family lineage of martial artists and everything like that, and to the point of you getting your moment in this spotlight here and everything like that, and this being more your moment in the context of you breaking down the fight and everything. Like, what are, I guess, the thoughts from your family members on this opportunity here? Because I imagine they would be quite excited for you and supportive and all that.
Oh yeah, everyone in in the city is super supportive. It's not very often you get guys from BC that are in the UFC. It's like one at a time always. And right now it's a good run because you got Rodrigo in Ultimate Fighter, you got me Contender Series, and we're both looking to get our shot in the UFC in the same year. So it's a lot going on right now, and the buzz is like really high for MMA here in Canada. And I just want to really bring that back, man. On the west side of Canada, I feel like it's kind of been died down. We're lucky to have two fighters, Lupi Godinez and Jamie Horth. Those ladies have been repping it hard for Vancouver and the west side of Canada. So we got to help take some weight off of their shoulders and get some of the male fighters in there as well. And yeah, I mean, Australia's been doing their thing. They have lots of their hype. They're all, they're in a good in a good place right now. They got a couple champions and everything. So it's gonna really mean a lot to get our Canadian talent in there this year, and I'm really looking forward to do so.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously you're not overlooking this fight, but just you talking about all of this, and I guess the way my brain works, I'm seeing UFC is returning to Vancouver in October there. So I mean, I don't know, things fall into place well. I mean, who knows? That could be a great main stage UFC debut opportunity to the point of like, BC fighters and the fight scene in Western Canada, etc.
Yeah, I mean, when I heard about that, I was like, huh, that kind of lines up. Like if I can get a good performance here and, God willing, come out unscathed or, even just good enough to be able to get back into training like a week or two after. I think the time lines up well. I know they're kind of quick on, it's not super far away, so I know they're going to be lining up fights for it and probably filling the card out pretty quickly. But even if that, I'm gonna stay in shape and stay ready because if something falls out and a slot opens up, I know I'm gonna be at the top of the list if I put on a good performance in August. So that's definitely something I've been looking forward to since the moment that I heard there was going to be a card in Vancouver, and it's also given me the extra motivation to really put on a good fight and get my hand raised.
Yeah, for sure. And I don't know. I guess the way my thought process kind of worked on it, I feel like there was so much heading into your fight in January about how you haven't lost a round in 10 years and things like that. And obviously, you had a great performance in your fight earlier in the year, but maybe like, I'm trying to find a way to phrase this, like maybe like a modicum of adversity in the context of, like I said, not lost a round in a decade. So maybe certain lessons were learned from that. Like, I guess, what did you take away from that last fight whereby you overcame some earlier difficult moments in the fight from your opponent and everything like that? Like, how much does something like that grow you as like a fighter and stuff like that, just being faced with that type of adversity and showing your mettle kind of within a moment like that?
Yeah, you always, learn a lot from every fight, no matter what happens, usually you take something from it. And especially since I have not that many fights every time I go in there, there's something new to learn. And yeah, my opponent last time had like 50 fights and, he's a super vet in the game. So I definitely took a lot out of that fight. I've never been in a fight that bloody before. I've never been in a fight where someone was trying to, talk to me during the fight. And I mean, I've been in tight submissions before, so I didn't learn too much about that. I know I have the grit to like not tap. It's just even that whole fight, like it's like just a moment, just learning that a moment can kind of, sway the thoughts of like people on around like one little moment. So just knowing that, anything can happen at a flip of a dime in a fight and around, and taking all the experiences from that fight and moving on forward, and it's good. That's a wealth of knowledge that I got from that fight. Even the just round and a half, it was I learned so much. It was more than I even did in my last like 2, 3 fights before that. So yeah, it was just great. That's why I like going up against people with high skill level and experience, because I always learn something from them as well, even when I'm in there. So
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like you have such a I'm trying to find a way to phrase this. Not like an advantage in a sense, or maybe that could be the operative word for it, just in as far as like we've been talking about how your record kind of belies what's ultimately a lifelong set of martial arts experiences. Like you've had these big highlight reel finishes and shown your skills so far. But I feel like just because of your record and where it's at this point, I feel like there's still so many tools that the broader fan base hasn't seen. Like I'm sure the people you train with have obviously been privy to that on a consistent basis. But yeah, interesting in that sense. Like I feel like there's so much of your game we maybe even still haven't seen as of yet.
yeah, I do. I feel like my competitive nature is always at 100% whenever there's someone in front of me or a challenge to be won or taken. But as far as like, I want to say like, I guess the just being comfortable, and I'm comfortable. It's just the more times I've been in there, the more composed I've been, and the easier it is to find finishes. So just the experience factor of actually being in the cage, that each time I get in there, it like allows a little bit of my skill set to show a little bit more. So yeah, I feel like I'm honestly fighting like skill wise at like, maybe 50%. Like I watch my fights back and I'm like, man, I wish I could, but that competitive nature takes over usually, and I always do what it takes to get the win. But I know that even if I was to show like even like another 30% more of what I even do in the gym, like people would be calling for like, oh, maybe this guy's a future champion in the UFC. So I know it comes with experience and time and all that, but yeah, I just each time I get there, I just want to let go just a little more of my skill set each time, and that's honestly my goal when I get in there. I'll be happy either way because I'm never like worried about losing to the better guy on the night. If you lose, you lose. Like, hats off to my opponent. But what I would be upset about is if I didn't give myself every chance I possibly could by going extremely hard in the gym, training my ass off, and then getting in there and performing to the level that I know I can. That would actually, devastate me completely if I go in there and don't perform to the level where I know I can, or at least improve a little bit from the last fight. That would actually, bother the crap out of me. But, losing to someone who was better on the night, it can happen to anybody. Like there's very few fighters that have ever stepped in there and not ever not had their hand raised, right? So you got to be prepared for that. And it's already happened to me. And I feel like that experience alone has, made me so much better and lifted a lot of like pressure off my shoulders. So that's the most important thing for me, is to be able to show that skill set that you're talking about each time just a little more.
Yeah, and I feel like if you get your ideal outcome here, you'd be entering rather a very interesting talent pool. Like I feel like featherweight is in quite a healthy state right now. Like Alexander Volkanovski cementing himself as champion again. Like obviously you have guys like Movsar Evloev, Diego Lopez, Yair Rodriguez in the picture. That Lerone Murphy against Aaron Pico fight coming up is fairly interesting. And I mean, you could really go on. So just serves the point that I kind of just presented, where it seems like you, if you get your ideal outcome here, would be entering quite the deep talent pool and everything.
Yeah, I always thought 145 is the best division in the UFC, just because they have a lot of the skills that, the lighter guys do, like bantamweight dudes, but it's more consequential, like when they hit people. And it's like, it's a good mix of 55 and 35. It's kind of like that in between. And as far as just the amount of fighters that are in that division, it just like it's one of the, most filled divisions in the UFC. It might be the most. I think they might have the most fighters. I'm not sure, but I know it's actually easily top two or top three. So yeah, just the amount of fighters, the talent level, I always knew coming into that division that it's going to be the hardest one. So, but that's the kind of stuff that I live for, man. I thrive for. If there's no challenge, there's no excitement, there's no like real reason to get ready for it. I need to feel like there's detrimental, danger ahead and that I need to prepare for at all times. So that's the kind of stuff that brings the best out of me. And yeah, like you said, the division's literally never been this strong. It's, you got top dudes from other promotions now that the UFC's signing, the guys that have been at the top and the new contenders guys from even last season that are coming up. And yeah, it's a super exciting time, man. And if you can rise to the top during this time in that division, like you're definitely showing that you're gonna be one of the best to ever do it. So it's definitely an exciting time.
Yeah, and super appreciative of you to make some time, at such a very exciting juncture in your career. But I am kind of noticing the time, and I do want to be mindful of your schedule and everything, and appreciative to have you make some time on your day off, Radley. So just figured I'd give you the floor if maybe you had a final parting thought you maybe wanted to add as we're wrapping up here on MMA Canada today.
No, just happy to talk about my fight, man. Just the more eyes, the better. And yeah, I'm looking forward to getting in there, getting this contract for Canada and for my family. So look forward to doing it. Tune in August 12th, UFC Contender Series, Episode 1, Season 9.
Yeah, there's so many great prospects in Contender Series, and this is one of the more intriguing fights out there for my money. So yeah, really looking forward to checking that out. As you said, on August 12th, this George Mangos fight, definitely a very intriguing one. And yeah, again, to reiterate, very appreciative of you for making the time to come on the MMA Canada platform today, Radley. All the best with the remainder of your preparations here, and have a good rest of your day too, man. Thank you.
Thanks for having me, man. Appreciate it. We'll talk soon.